And the good news is patients in China are being cured of cancer thanks to CRISPR technology and DNA sequencing technology. The opportunity, the revenue opportunity for monogenic stem cell therapy is in the $2 trillion range, and polygenic, however many trillions. No one's thinking about these numbers, and that's because in the public equity markets, the investing time horizon has become so shortened by the crises we went through, both the tech and telecom crisis and the global financial crisis of 08-09. So time horizons became very short-sighted, we would say. Our time horizons are 5 to 10 years. That's the time horizon you have to have. And if you have that kind of time horizon, what you will understand is that the stocks that we are investing in the genomic revolution are actually deep value stocks. They may be losing money now, but the kinds of cash flows that they're going to generate over time are phenomenal, and we do not believe the markets understand this opportunity.
Hey, I'm Stephen and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So in this video, I'm reacting to some clips of Ark Invest Cathie Wood discussing CRISPR gene editing technologies, the potential of the genomic space to grow to a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and more. As some of you guys will know, I've recently made a direct investment in Crispr Therapeutics. I also own some shares in the Ark Genomics ETF. In total, my genomics investments comprise around 2% of my stock portfolio, around $100,000 in value. I'm extremely bullish on the genomics space and I believe it is now ready for prime time. So let's get into the video. But first, hey guys, if you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. Unless you don't like free stocks, that is. And if you're in Australia, the UK or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it.
The genomic revolution really caught our attention as the first human genome was being sequenced, or near the completion of sequencing. This was part of the tech and telecom boom, and it also was part of the tech and telecom bust. And unlike the internet, which came back pretty quickly, the genomic revolution, we think, has been held under wraps by political uncertainties, especially funding and reimbursement and so forth. We think the time is ripe, and we think that the genomic revolution is going to transform healthcare completely. God bless the health practitioners, doctors, nurses, researchers, others. Until recently, they didn't have the information they needed to make decisions. They didn't have the science. We thought they did, but they didn't. There's an analogy here to, and I'm not trying to make light of this, but there is an analogy to the advertising world. In the old days of advertising, say Mad Men, the 1960s, we used to hear from chief marketing officers, you know, I know that half of my advertising is working, I just don't know which half. And of course, what companies came along to answer that question? Google, Facebook, Twitter. We think the problem is worse in healthcare. We think that much of the decision-making in healthcare is a function of either guesswork or experience or gut. And we think that as we learn more and more about the human genome, that the answers are going to become more precise, and the cures will then follow.
So for those of you who aren't aware, the Human Genome Project was completed in 2003 with the sequencing of the first full human genome. Shout out to Craig Venter. You guys should learn about the controversy surrounding that. It's quite an interesting tale. Long story short, private lab outdid the US government for a fraction of the cost in a fraction of the time. Either way, as Cathie mentioned there was a huge boom and a bust. It's been almost 2 decades of stasis in the genomic space. But now with the advent of greater technology, improvements in sequencing, new technologies like CRISPR, gene editing, etc., we really are ready for prime time. And as Cathie Wood alluded to, we're now seeing the beginning of the transition from generic medicine to personalized medicine. The difference between throwing shit and hoping it sticks. Yeah, don't worry about the side effects. If you're one of those unlucky few, you might end up dead. This might kill you. It might make things worse. This is a generic solution. It works for some people, not all, etc. To hang on a minute. Let's sequence your entire genome. Let's understand you individually and then tailor medicine and solutions specifically to you that we know will be effective rather than hope will be effective.
Technology usually brings with it good deflation. And so what we're seeing from DNA sequencing is costs falling about 30 to 40% per year. And we see the first human genome was sequenced for a cost of almost $3 billion and took 13 years of computing power. We're now down to, well, less than $1,000 per human genome in a day or so. And by 2021, we think we'll be at $100, so that DNA sequencing will become part of our annual physicals. And DNA sequencing will be able to identify where our genes have mutated and why we have certain kinds of diseases. We're also, with CRISPR technology and CAR T technology, going to learn about ways of actually curing disease. CRISPR technology, CRISPR-Cas9 specifically, is gene editing. Now, gene editing is really not new. We had a gene editing technology called zinc finger nuclease, and that has achieved some success, but it's extremely expensive. About $5,500 per base pair of DNA that's edited. Today, CRISPR-Cas9 can edit at $30 per base pair, so huge drop in the costs.
So to give you guys some context, that's an almost 200 times decrease in cost. Insane.
Gene editing is exactly what it says, editing. It's cutting, activating, silencing, regulating. We call it the molecular Swiss Army knife. In essence, gene editing can reprogram the mutations in our DNA. Our DNA starts out usually just fine, and then mutations happen along the way, and now we have a technology that can edit them away. To give you a sense of how important this is, only 5% of the monogenic diseases, so the diseases caused by one gene, only 5% of them are treatable today. With gene editing, all of them potentially will be treatable. And then beyond that, monogenic is only 2% of all the genes out there. So if I were to tell you that if we were able to solve all the problems for people with monogenic disease, that's a $2 trillion opportunity, can you imagine how big the polygenic opportunity is going to be? This is really one of the most exciting investment ideas we have ever experienced.
Let's do some quick math to try and size the enormous, no, colossal scale of this opportunity. So Ark Invest there believe that just curing monogenic diseases, one gene diseases, a $2 trillion opportunity. And monogenic diseases represent around 2% of all disease. Polygenic diseases, further 98%. In other words, the opportunity in curing all polygenic and monogenic diseases in total is around 100 trillion with a T trillion dollars.
There are other applications for CRISPR technology. Agriculture is a big one, livestock as well. So germ-resistant or disease-resistant animals and plants, fish that gestate in half the time they do now in the wild, so salmon instead of 3 years, 1.5 years. We have determined from our research at Ark that we will be able to feed, because of these breakthroughs, 800 million more people by the year 2025. And wouldn't you know, that's about how fast global population is going to grow. So pretty exciting there.
That's right. CRISPR technology and gene editing doesn't just apply to humans, health, longevity, well-being, curing of diseases, but can also apply to agriculture, crops, plants, animals, increasing yields, requiring less resources, etc. The implications here are truly astonishing. And I know a few people get a little bit uncomfortable about the idea of gene editing plants and animals. I hate to break it to you guys, but we've been doing this for thousands of years by selectively breeding. Now, I know a few of you are thinking that's totally different. It's not. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The only difference here is greater precision. A little bit less hit and miss, a little bit less guesswork, a little bit more precision. Where do you think all of the domestic animals that we have today came from? Really? What about all the plants? Have you actually seen what a carrot used to look like, or an apple, or any other fruit or vegetable, or any plant that we currently use as a food source on planet Earth? They've all been heavily gene edited through selective breeding. The only difference now is we have much more precise technology. So don't get your panties in a twist about this whole idea, because literally everything you're eating today has been gene edited by human beings over the last few thousand years.
Investing in CRISPR may seem difficult, and the reason for that is these are not household names. We have focused on those companies with the best patent positions in the CRISPR-Cas9 space. There are 3 companies that have those patents primarily. They are INTELLIA, EDITAS, and Crispr Therapeutics. They are involved right now in a lot of patent fights or disputes. And what we believe will happen for the good of mankind, and because it makes good business sense, we believe that this space will be characterized now or soon by a lot of cross-licensing activities. We don't think it's going to be as fraught as many other investors do, and these are some of our biggest positions today. Winner takes all or winner takes most. We think that if there is such a phenomenon in this space, it will be those 3 because of this cross-licensing arrangement. Many other countries are interested in these breakthroughs and are doing a lot of research as well. China has become very determined. It bought a company called Complete Genomics, a US company, and was going to develop a DNA sequencing platform, especially for China, hopefully to be exported to the rest of the world. They have failed in doing that. China is accelerating its investment now. The Beijing Genome Institute, I believe, has stated that for every human genome that is sequenced outside of China, they would like to sequence one inside of China. So we think China's pouring a lot of research and investment dollars into this space. And in fact, they have conducted the first CRISPR trials on human beings. In the United States, we will see the first human trials this year. China started in 2015. Now, we haven't heard what, if anything, has gone wrong with those trials. We have heard the good news, and the good news is patients in China are being cured of cancer thanks to CRISPR technology and DNA sequencing technology.
Not to labor the point, but you guys can start to understand why I'm so excited for CRISPR gene editing technology and why I say that it's now ready for prime time. It's moved from the theoretical and possible to the actual. This technology is being used in real human beings to cure real diseases.
We are not facing the same ethical concerns as we faced with GMOs, genetically modified organisms. And those were applied to crops. Europe just banned those.
I've never been one to bite my tongue, and I would just like to take this opportunity to point out that literally 100% of the well-meaning but clearly ill-informed people behind Europe's decision to ban genetically modified crops is a moron. Now, I'm not saying this from a place of emotion, but reason. Only one of us understands what's involved in genetically modifying crops, and it's this guy here. It's an absolute embarrassment. Think about the number of people who could have had better nutrition, who may not have starved to death, may not have suffered diseases, etc. from malnutrition just because they could have accessed these higher yield crops, etc., who are now dead, who've starved or have contracted diseases, fallen ill, and died. Why? Because these dickheads don't know what they're talking about. They get scared, they get freaked out. Instead of understanding the science, they just go, no, I'm scared. What does that mean? It sounds scary. Ban it. Thankfully, as Cathie Wood points out, thanks to gene editing with CRISPR technology, we no longer have to worry about these dipshits getting in the way of people accessing nutritious food.
Europe has been the first to accept some of these studies and actually approved crops that have been modified with gene editing. Again, we're just editing the crop itself. It's its own DNA. There are no foreign organisms involved in this. And so we think this is much less fraught ethically. We also think that the research on pluripotent stem cells is very important. This takes away embryonic from the debate. Some investors are interested to know that with the technology today, we can take skin cells and turn them into heart valve cells. Again, because of this new pluripotent stem cell technology. We do not think that investors are pricing this space correctly at all. The opportunity, the revenue opportunity for monogenic stem cell therapy is in the $2 trillion range, and polygenic, however many trillions. No one's thinking about these numbers, and that's because in the public equity markets, the investing time horizon has become so shortened by the crises we went through, both the tech and telecom crisis and the global financial crisis of 08-09. So time horizons became very short-sighted, we would say. Our time horizons are 5 to 10 years. That's the time horizon you have to have. And if you have that kind of time horizon, what you will understand is that the stocks that we are investing in the genomic revolution are actually deep value stocks. They may be losing money now, but the kinds of cash flows that they're going to generate over time are phenomenal, and we do not believe the markets understand this opportunity.
And just to give you guys some context, this video, which originally aired mid-2018, by the way, link in the description of the full interview, I highly recommend you guys check it out. We can see what's happened to the valuation of the Ark Genomics ETF since that point, seeing very, very, very strong growth, around 250%. We're starting to see the market just barely beginning to recognize some of the potential and the value in the genomic space, in gene therapies and gene editing. And in my opinion, we still have a very long way to go.
The timeline for this space is, we would say, the next 20 years, 20 to 25 years. We think that the next 10 years, we're going to see many investors experiencing aha moments as more of these cures actually start to make the headlines. And they may start in China. They've already started in China and slowly move their way here. But the new FDA commissioner has two goals. One, yes, is to drive drug pricing down, but not in the way many investors and others think. It is by accelerating the approval of generic drugs, not just small molecules, but also biosimilars. So biotech companies who used to be protected from generics are no longer going to be. So that's one of his objectives. This is Scott Gottlieb. And the second objective, and we think many are dismissing this or just not paying attention, is to approve as fast as possible these new breakthrough technologies so that we can cure cancer and other diseases over time. In terms of all of our innovation platforms, DNA sequencing being one, we are looking at them through the lens of the saddled S-curve. And typically that means a hype phase. In genomics, that would have been the tech and telecom boom in the late 90s. The technologies were not ready then. The ideas were big, and they were right. They were just 10 to 20 years too early. So we had then many years of the fallout and the fall from grace, ending in the valley of despair. And I would say that was in the pre-election campaigning season 2016. And then we have, coming out of that, the sweet spot of the S-curve. That's what we're looking for. We think that the genomic revolution with some of these breakthrough therapies and technologies is entering that space. The reason we know we're not in a bubble is because of the deep values that we see when we do our modeling going out 10, 15 years and discounting the cash flows. The other way we know we're not in a bubble is most of the investors and others do not or did not know which companies were making the big breakthroughs in CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So INTELLIA, EDITAS, Crispr Therapeutics, when they are in the news and in the headlines, then maybe we'll think we're beginning a bubble, but we're so far away from that. I feel like I'm a dog underneath the table picking up the scraps again, and we lie in wait for the next controversy to pummel these stocks, which are not in indexes. And that is why they get pummeled in risk-off periods, because investors today think their safety is in the big indexes. We would submit that some of the biggest value traps, traditional pharma, traditional biotech, are in the traditional indexes, and that's where the risks are. We believe that the opportunities are in the stocks in our Genomic Revolution Fund, which is all about the future, not about the past.
So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I was beating the drum on Tesla for half a decade to everybody that would listen and plenty who wouldn't. I got a funny feeling I'm going to be beating the drum on the genomics opportunity now for at least as long. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any investments in the genomics space or if there's any genomics companies you're interested in, whether it's CRISPR or anybody else. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget, if you'd like to help out the channel and get up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. And if you're in Australia, the UK or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake also using the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.